Hey everyone. Lately I've seen that these Chinese LED lights are very popular. Things like MarsAqua and other brands that are pretty much all the same. But when I ordered mine and I noticed that the fans were very, very loud. So in this video I want to show you how to replace the fans. My unit came with 3 fans. I've already replaced 2. I thought that would be enough. Actually, I disabled the middle fan. But I've decided just, to be safe, I'm going to go ahead and replace the 3rd fan as well. So I figured maybe I'll show you guys that might be interested what to do and how to go about changing your own fans. Let me just go over briefly some of the items we're going to be using. I bought these fans earlier today. They are very quiet, super quiet. I think these particular ones are 15 dBA, so that's fine. And you're going to need a screwdriver. You're going to need something to clip wire, and you're going to need wire strippers. You're going to need some zip ties. What I have here is some heat shrink to clean up everything afterwards, and that's what I'm going to heat it up with. We're going to need a soldering iron, which I have here, and some solder, and that'll be it. So let's get going. The first thing to do is to quickly just go and open the fan up. The lights, rather. I'm going to go ahead and give you a parts list in the description below. If you want to pick up some of these items, you can just go ahead and find them on the link. Hopefully it will get you going. I try to strike a balance between quietness of the fans and their price. I mean, these lights, the whole point of these lights is they're quite affordable compared to other LED lights that are out there. And to spend $30 on a fan kind of makes the whole point moot. So these are very quiet, and they're not the absolute quietest, but they blow a pretty good amount of air, so I feel that they're just the right combination. So hopefully you guys will pick them up and give them a shot. Okay, so that's that. Now, since you are about to open it, what you can do now is just grab it from here and open this up. You will see that the section, all the electronics are on this side, the LEDs are on the bottom. They're held together by these particular clips. You can just carefully undo them. Now, one thing I've done is that I used just a Sharpie to put a mark here and here, just so that I would know I didn't get these swapped when I'm putting things together. So you can do that as well. That way you can put it back exactly the way it was instead of it being reversed and your channels being backwards. Now you can pretty much put this aside for now, and we're going to work with this. You can see that I already replaced these 2 fans. You can see my yellow zip ties here. So what you want to do first is you want to flip it over and you want to undo the screws that are here. The same screwdriver worked for me, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. All right. Now you want to kind of make a quick observation about this fan. The middle fan is the one I want to remove. I've already done these other 2. And first you kind of have to see that normally these are hooked up. They'll put some zip ties to kind of bundle stuff around, so you want to be careful about that, and you will need to cut them to release the fan, and you need to remember to put some back at the end to kind of keep everything organized. You don't want any of these cables getting in the way of the fan blades later on. We have to see that there is a connection here. We got to separate these 2 and remember to put it back after. And then we will remove this fan and replace with the new one, which we got. Now, this is the fan that I purchased. I purchased it. and it is a very quiet fan. It is 80 millimeters by 25, is one of the standard sizes. And yeah, this is what we're going to replace it with. So one thing you want to notice is that these cables are all clear. There is no obvious sign of which is ground and which is positive, which is what we need to know. So I'm going to show you a graphic on the screen that will tell you, relative to this plug, which is a 3-pin plug, which one is ground and which one is positive. What I do is I use a little bit of painter's tape to mark the one cable that is ground. So in this case, the ground is this right cable right here. So I am going to go ahead and separate these out. And I'm going to put a tiny bit of cable, of tape around the ground. Okay, now the middle one is our positive, and the other cable you actually will not need to use for anything. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this now that I have labeled it. And I'm going to you want to give yourself some working room, so you can go ahead and kind of peel these cables back, separating the three. I'm going to go ahead and clip out the one that I know that is not the middle one and that is not ground, since we're definitely not using that. That's for computers. We don't need that. It's only for when being used in a PC environment. I'm going to relocate this ground marker here. And the next thing you want to do is you want to go ahead and strip these cables to give yourself some room to solder these in. So just kind of going to give myself some space. You really want to get yourself one of these strippers, because it's very difficult to do it with any other thing, since these cables are kind of small. Okay. Now, the thing you want to do is you want to put these in place, then screw them back to the fan, and then solder everything in together. So you want to kind of observe. This is where I had previously cut. This was going to the third fan, which I'm replacing now. In the past, I was just going to leave it there unused, but so I still cut them so they wouldn't get any power, and now I'm going to reuse this. So we have to carefully put our fan back in place, get everything zip tied and everything in order, and then we're going to strip these wires, and then we're going to solder everything in place. Here we go. You want to make sure everything is flat and that you're going to have enough room to connect, so which we do. Put these that we separated back, and we want to go ahead and screw the fan back in. Okay, now that we've got them in place, we can go ahead and zip tie our stuff back together. You want to make sure you grab all the loose cables, get them all situated cleanly, and you use your keep things tidy. Okay, now what I want to do is I'm going to strip these cables, the ones that were here, so that I can solder them to these fan cables. So previously I had just kind of taped these together so that I would find them again. And you want to make sure that these cables are kind of even, so I'm going to cut right here, and then I'm going to strip a little bit of this plastic coating off the cable so that I have a good place to solder right here where I already stripped these fan cables, as you can see here. So here we go. Okay, now that these are stripped, we're getting ready to do our soldering. Like I mentioned before, we're going to use some heat shrink to make sure that this all looks nice and clean when we're done. So I went ahead and got some heat shrink to use, and we have to cut it to size. It comes in these long strips. We don't need that much, so we need to cut it. I figured that we're going to need about an inch and a half. So you want to go ahead and put that in place, run it through, and I'm going to put it on the fan side because there's a little bit more cable to work with. Here it is. Okay. Similarly, I'm going to cut about roughly the same amount on this side. I'm going to pass it through. Okay. Now my soldering iron has been warming up, so I'm going to get some solder. Go ahead and just cut some off. And what you want to do before you start is you want to kind of join the two wires together. Some people put them just kind of twist them together. I'm going to go ahead and do that. Twist, 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 twist. And now I will use my soldering iron to kind of heat the cable, to heat it up, get it nice and hot, so that when I do apply my solder, it will just take really, really well. I kind of like to preheat the cable. And then I just put the solder on. Just a little bit. You don't need a lot. Okay. Now again, this is very hot, so you definitely want to be careful. Now I'm going to go ahead and do the other side. This is the positive now. I'm going to again get them together and just twist, 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 twist. You can see here that I went ahead and twisted those together. It's kind of hard to focus on it. And I'm going to go ahead and solder these now. Again, you want to kind of heat up the cable some. Actually, my soldering iron is quite hot now, so it doesn't really matter too much. You don't need to put a ton of solder. Just enough that everything is getting a good coating. So now we let these cool, and we are going to use the heat shrink to kind of clean this up and make sure that this is a very nice connection. This is good now. So now that I have the solder in place, I'm gonna get these heat shrinks that I put and slip them over the solder connections, and then I'm gonna heat up the heat shrink to kind of tighten up on that, and it'll be nice and clean. Now, in order to get this heat shrink to activate, I'm going to go ahead and just use this cheap lighter, kind of get okay. Okay, so you can see that I'm going to do this heat shrink right there. And looking good. We're done here. Okay, now that the soldering and the heat shrink and all that's in place, the only thing left to do is to put this thing back together. So that's pretty straightforward. Let's begin. What we want to do is line up our dots with what the markings we had on the other side, so we know what channel goes with what. And then we reconnect the cables as they were before. Pretty straightforward. And now flip it over, put it back in place, and get your screw. You kind of have to hold it just to kind of make sure everything goes in. Everything gets aligned. Now, the last thing to do is, of course, to test it. I put everything back together. I'm going to go ahead and plug this in right there. There you go. Clearly see the fan is spinning. It's very quiet. All you hear is pretty much the air flowing. And that pretty much completes our project. If anyone of you guys has questions, feel free to just mention in the comments, and I'll try to answer as best I can. Thanks a lot, guys.